Captain Tae-jin stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Harmony, staring at the massive station floating in the darkness of space. The structure was enormous, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Lights flickered across its surface like stars, and ships from dozens of different worlds moved in and out of its docking bays. This was the Galactic Council Station, and today would be remembered as the day humanity officially joined the greater galaxy. Or so Tae-jin had hoped. Ambassador Haiwan walked up beside him, her face calm, but her eyes sharp. She was a woman in her 50s, with gray streaks in her black hair and a reputation for never backing down from a fight. She had negotiated peace treaties on Earth and handled corporate wars. Surely she could handle a meeting with aliens. "Are you ready?" Tae-jin asked her quietly. Haiwan nodded. "We've prepared for this moment for 5 years. Ever since we decoded their first transmission, humanity deserves a seat at the table." Behind them, Engineer Ji-woo checked her tablet nervously. She was young, barely 25, with quick fingers and a brilliant mind for technology. She had been studying the alien data packets they had received, trying to understand their systems. "Captain, I'm picking up communication protocols from 47 different species. This council is much bigger than we thought." "Then we'll need to make a good impression on all of them," Tae-jin said. He straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Let's go meet our new neighbors." The docking procedure took an hour. The aliens were very particular about security and quarantine protocols. When the airlock finally opened, Tae-jin, Haiwan, and Ji-woo stepped into a world unlike anything they had imagined. The corridor was vast, with ceilings 20 meters high. Aliens of every shape and size moved past them, some walking, some floating, some slithering. The air smelled strange, like copper and flowers mixed together. A tall, reptilian creature approached them. Its skin was dark green and covered in scales, and its eyes were yellow with vertical slits for pupils. It wore elaborate robes that seemed to shimmer with their own light. "I am Counselor Vex," the creature said in perfect English, though its voice had a hissing quality. "I speak for the Galactic Council. You are the representatives of Earth?" "Yes," Haiwan said, stepping forward with confidence. "I am Ambassador Haiwan, and this is Captain Tae-jin and Engineer Ji-woo. We are honored to be here." Vex's eyes narrowed slightly. "Honor, yes. Come. The Council is waiting to pass judgment on your species. Judgment. Not meet with or welcome, but pass judgment." Tae-jin felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Ji-woo glanced at him nervously, but he kept his face neutral. They followed Vex through endless corridors until they reached a massive chamber. It was circular, with seats rising up in tiers all around them. Hundreds of aliens sat in those seats, representing species from across the galaxy. At the center was an empty space with a single platform, and Vex gestured for the humans to stand there. As they took their positions, Tae-jin felt like a specimen under a microscope. All those alien eyes in every color and shape imaginable staring down at them. Vex climbed to his seat and activated a translation device. His voice boomed through the chamber. "The Council will now review the species known as humans from the planet Earth. We have studied their transmissions, their technology, and their history." Another alien stood, this one covered in blue fur with multiple arms. "They are violent. Their history is filled with wars. A floating creature that looked like a jellyfish pulsed with light. Their technology is primitive. They have barely left their own star system." "They have nuclear weapons," said another, a being made of what looked like living crystal. "But they have used them against their own kind. Barbaric." Haiwan tried to speak. "If I may address the Council." "Silence," Vex commanded. "You will speak when permitted." Tae-jin's jaw tightened, but he stayed quiet. This wasn't going the way they had planned at all. For 2 hours, the Council debated. They talked about humanity as if humans weren't even in the room. They criticized every aspect of human civilization. Too aggressive, too reckless, too young, too foolish. The words piled up, each one feeling like a slap. Finally, Vex raised his hand and the chamber fell silent. The Council has reached a decision. We have reviewed all the evidence. We have considered your species carefully. HFY stood tall, waiting. Taejin held his breath. The Galactic Council hereby issues Official Decree 7749, Vex announced. Humans are classified as a subordinate species. The words hung in the air like poison. What does that mean? HFY asked, her voice tight. Vex looked down at her with something that might have been pity or might have been contempt. It means you are children. You require guidance, you require rules. He tapped his controls and a holographic document appeared in the air. These are your restrictions. First, no faster than light travel beyond your solar system without Council permission. Second, no expansion of your military fleet beyond current numbers. Third, no voting rights in galactic matters. Fourth, you will pay tribute to the Council in resources, metals, water, energy, to fund your protection. Protection from what? Taejin demanded. From yourselves, Vex said simply, and from those who would exploit a primitive species. HFY's face flushed red. This is unacceptable. We came here as equals. We came here in peace. Peace? Vex laughed, a horrible hissing sound. You have been at peace on your own world for barely 50 years. You are infants playing with fire. This decree is for your own good. We reject this decree, HFY said firmly. Humanity does not bow to tyranny. The chamber erupted in sounds, clicks, hisses, musical tones that might have been laughter. Vex held up his hand again. You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is the reality of your situation. You are one small planet. We are 47 advanced civilizations. If you refuse to comply, we will enforce compliance. Do you understand? The threat was clear. Taejin put a hand on HFY's shoulder. As much as it burned, they couldn't fight here, not now, not against impossible odds. We understand, HFY said, her voice like ice. Good. Vex waved his hand dismissively. You are dismissed. The first tribute payment is due in 6 months. A council ship will arrive to collect. Do not be late. As they walked back to their ship, Jiwoo was crying silently. Taejin's hands were clenched into fists. HFY's face was a mask, showing nothing. But just before they entered the airlock, Taejin noticed something. A small alien with purple skin and large eyes watched them from a doorway. When their gazes met, the alien made a gesture, something that looked almost apologetic. Then it vanished. Not all the aliens agreed with this, Taejin realized. The council wasn't as united as it wanted to appear. As the Harmony pulled away from the station and began the long journey home, HFY finally spoke. They think we're weak. They think we'll just accept this. Won't we have to? Jiwoo asked quietly. HFY turned to look at both of them, and for the first time since the meeting, she smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone planning something dangerous. We're going to teach them something, she said. Something every bully in human history has learned eventually. What's that? Taejin asked. That pushing humans down is easy, HFY said. Keeping us down is impossible. 6 months had passed since the humiliation at the Galactic Council. Earth had changed in that time, though not in the way the Council expected. Commander Donghyun sat in a military briefing room deep beneath Seoul, reviewing reports from across the solar system. He was a thick-shouldered man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his years as a combat pilot. Now he commanded something that officially didn't exist, Earth's secret military expansion program. Let me understand this correctly, he said to the engineer on the screen. You took apart one of their scanning devices and figured out how it works in 3 months? Dr. Sun-hee nodded from her laboratory on Mars. She was a thin woman with sharp eyes and no patience for small talk. Actually, it took us 1 month to understand it. 2 months to improve it. Our version has 30% better range and uses half the power. Donghyun allowed himself a small smile. And the council thinks we're too primitive to understand their technology. Their technology is advanced, but it's old, Sun-hee explained. They've been using the same designs for thousands of years. They stopped innovating. We're not smarter than them, Commander. We're just hungrier. That was the truth of it, Dong-hyun thought. The aliens had grown comfortable. They had their empire, their rules, their safe little galaxy. Humans had none of that. Humans had only one advantage: they needed to survive, and that made them dangerous. How many ships can we build before the council notices? Dong-hyun asked. Sun-hee checked her notes. If we use the asteroid belt as cover and register them as mining vessels, maybe 200 before they get suspicious. 300 if we're lucky. Make it 500, Dong-hyun said. And make sure they don't look like warships. I want them to look like garbage haulers and ore processors. With military-grade weapons hidden inside? Sun-hee asked with a slight smile. You read my mind, Doctor. Across the solar system, another part of humanity's response was taking shape. Merchant Captain Yan-woo guided his freighter, the Lucky Dragon, through an asteroid field in a system the Council had labeled off-limits to humans. He was a stocky man with a round face and a talent for making friends in unlikely places. His crew was nervous. Captain, if the Council catches us here, we'll lose our license. Maybe worse. The Council can stick their license where their sun doesn't shine, Yan-woo said cheerfully. He had been a smuggler before humanity met the aliens, and he was a smuggler now. Some things never changed. Besides, we're meeting a friend. A small ship appeared on their sensors. It was a design Yan-woo had learned to recognize. A trader vessel from the Kiri species, one of the Council's other subordinate members. The Kiri looked like upright insects with 4 arms and delicate features. They had been subjugated by the Council for 300 years. The 2 ships docked, and Yan-woo met with the Kiri captain, whose name sounded like clicks and whistles but who used the trade name Kix. They met in the cargo bay, away from recording devices. You shouldn't be here, Kix said, his translator making his voice sound worried. The Council patrols this sector. Which is exactly why we should be here, Yan-woo said. We need things, you need things, and the Council doesn't need to know about any of it. Kix shifted nervously. What you're suggesting is dangerous. Living under the Council's boot is dangerous, Yan-woo countered. Trading with each other. That's just smart business, he patted a cargo container. I've got rare earth minerals. Medical isotopes. Entertainment programs from Earth, what do you have for me? Kix hesitated, then made a decision. Navigation charts. For sectors the Council hasn't told you about, and information about their patrol schedules. Yan-woo grinned. Now we're talking. It was a small thing, this trade. But across human space, 100 other small trades were happening. Information for resources. Technology for food. Maps for medicine. The Council had tried to isolate humanity, but they had forgotten something important. There were other species who hated their chains too. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Haewon prepared for the Council's first tribute collection. She had aged in the past 6 months, new lines appearing around her eyes, but her spine was still straight and her voice was still strong. The tribute shipment is ready? She asked her assistant. Yes, Ambassador. Exactly what they demanded. 10,000 tons of refined metals, 500,000 gallons of water, and power cells worth 100 million kilowatt-hours. Good. Haewon looked at the document on her screen. And this is the last tribute we're paying. Her assistant looked nervous. Ambassador, if we refuse, they'll what? Invade us, destroy us? Haewon shook her head. Maybe, but if we keep paying, we'll be slaves forever. Humans don't do forever slavery. We're not built for it. The tribute ship arrived on schedule, a massive Council enforcement vessel called the Iron Decree. It was 3 times the size of Earth's largest warship and bristled with weapons. The commander was a Council enforcer named Thrak, built like a tank with gray skin and small, mean eyes. Captain Tae-jin met him at the delivery point, an orbital platform above Earth. The tribute was transferred under Thrak's suspicious watch. Your species learns slowly, Thrak rumbled. But you learn. Good. We're quick learners when we need to be, Tae-jin said neutrally. Thrak gestured at Earth below. We will inspect your facilities. Make sure you're following the decree. No unauthorized military construction. No banned technology. Of course, Tae-jin said. We have nothing to hide. The inspection was tense. Thrak's team went through 3 of Earth's orbital shipyards, scanning everything, checking manifests. They found civilian construction, medical research stations, agricultural platforms, everything exactly as it should be. What they didn't find were the other 15 shipyards hidden throughout the asteroid belt, disguised as mining operations, or the weapons research labs on the dark side of the moon. or the training facilities on Mars where civilian defense volunteers were learning combat tactics. As Throck prepared to leave, Ji Woo, now promoted to chief engineer, personally gave him a data packet. Our resource survey for next quarter. As requested, Throck took it without thanks. But as his ship was departing, Ji Woo's hidden program activated. It was a simple spy program, designed to copy the ship's navigation database and sensor protocols. The Council enforcer had no idea he was carrying back exactly the kind of intelligence Earth needed most. 2 weeks later, a smaller incident made the Council take notice. A human freighter called the Morning Star was intercepted by a Council patrol ship in neutral space. The patrol ship's commander demanded to search the human vessel for contraband. The freighter's captain, a woman named Bo-Ra, refused. "We're in neutral space," she said. "You have no authority here." "We have authority everywhere," the patrol commander said. "Prepare to be boarded." What happened next no one expected. The Morning Star suddenly accelerated with speed that shouldn't have been possible for a cargo ship. When the patrol ship fired a warning shot, the freighter deployed defensive drones, mining equipment officially, but modified with laser cutters that sliced through the patrol ship's weapon systems like butter. The patrol ship, embarrassed and damaged, limped back to the nearest Council station. Bo-Ra and the Morning Star vanished into the asteroid belt. The Council sent a formal complaint to Earth. Ambassador Hai Wan sent back a formal apology and promised to discipline the captain. Privately, she sent Bo-Ra a medal. "They're testing boundaries," Dong Hyun said during a secure conference with Earth's leadership. "The Morning Star incident wasn't an accident. They know we're up to something. Then we accelerate the timeline," Hai Wan said. "How long until we're ready?" Dong Hyun checked his data. 6 months for minimal preparedness. 1 year for optimal. "Make it 6 months," Hai Wan decided, "because they won't wait a year." Across human space, the work intensified. Sun Hee's teams reverse-engineered more alien technology, adapting and improving it with human creativity. Dong Hyun's hidden fleet grew ship by ship. Yanwoo's network of smugglers and traders spread information and resources across a dozen species. And everywhere, humans did what they had always done best. They adapted, they improvised, and they refused to accept their fate. The Council thought they had put humanity in a box. They thought subordinate meant broken. They were about to learn the most important lesson about humans. Telling them they can't do something is the fastest way to make them do it. In a secure message to Dong Hyun, Hai Wan wrote a single line that summed up Earth's strategy. "Let them think we're obeying. Let them think we're afraid. And when they finally realize we're neither, it'll be too late." The countdown had begun. Governor Kyung-soo stood on the observation deck of New Busan's Capitol building and looked out at the colony that had become his home. 200,000 humans lived here now, on a planet 40 light-years from Earth. They had farms, factories, schools, and families. Children were being born who would never see Earth's sky. This was their home, and the Council wanted to take it away. Kyung-soo was a former military officer, a tall man with stern features and an unshakable sense of duty. He had helped establish this colony 10 years ago, back before the Council's decree. Now the Council claimed that all human colonies outside the solar system were illegal. They were demanding New Busan be abandoned. His assistant, a young woman named Eunji, handed him the latest message. "It's from the Council. High Inquisitor Drex is coming personally. He'll be here in 3 days with a battle fleet." "How many ships?" Kyung-soo asked calmly. "Intelligence says 50 warships. Maybe more. 50 warships against a civilian colony." It wasn't a military operation, it was a statement. The Council wanted to crush humanity's spirit, to show them what happened when they disobeyed. "Evacuate the children," Kyung-soo ordered. "Put them on every civilian transport we have and send them to the outer system. Hide them." "And everyone else?" Yoonji asked. Kyung-soo turned to face her. "Everyone else stays. If we abandon New Busan without a fight, the Council will think they can take anything they want from us. We need to show them that humans don't scare easily. Governor, we're not soldiers. We're farmers and engineers and teachers." "Then we'll have to learn fast," Kyung-soo said. He activated the colony-wide communication system. "Attention, New Busan, this is Governor Kyung-soo. You all know what's coming. You know what the Council wants. I'm asking every able person to help defend our home. We're going to use every ship we have, mining vessels, construction platforms, cargo haulers, everything. "We're going to show the Council what happens when they threaten human families." The response was immediate. Volunteers flooded the registration centers. Miners brought their drilling ships. Construction workers volunteered their massive cargo haulers. Even the research scientists offered to help modify whatever they could into weapons. Meanwhile, on the Galactic Council station, Agent Mireille sat in a small office processing paperwork like she had done for the past year. She was a quiet woman who drew no attention, exactly as she wanted. No one knew she was Earth's top intelligence operative, placed deep inside Council bureaucracy. She had access to low-level security files, which was perfect. High-level access would be monitored. Low-level access was ignored. And in those ignored files, she found everything: fleet movements, communication protocols, internal memos about the human problem. Today, she found something that made her blood run cold. High Inquisitor Drex had filed a report about New Busan. In it, he described his plan: show overwhelming force, destroy any resistance, and if the humans didn't surrender immediately, bombard the colony from orbit. Bombard. That meant killing everyone. Mireille immediately transmitted the file to Earth through a hidden network. Then she did something risky. She started recording everything happening in Council chambers and feeding it to human media networks across the galaxy. If the Council was going to commit atrocity, the whole galaxy would watch. High Inquisitor Drex was everything humans hated about the Council. He was massive, standing 3 meters tall with armored skin and 4 powerful arms. His species, the Krell, were warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds before joining the Council. Drex believed in power and dominance. He thought subordinate species existed to serve their betters. As his fleet approached New Busan, he reviewed the intelligence reports with contempt. 200,000 primitives playing soldier. This will take an hour, maybe less. His second-in-command, a smaller alien named Fick, looked uncertain. "High Inquisitor, the reports say they have mining vessels and industrial equipment. Perhaps we should what? Fear cargo ships?" Drex laughed. "We are the Council's strongest warriors. They are children with toys. Watch and learn what power really means." The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of New Busan's system. 50 warships, each one a masterpiece of destructive capability. They formed a perfect battle formation and began advancing on the planet. Kyung-soo watched them come on his command center screens. His fleet looked pathetic by comparison. 30 mining ships, 20 construction haulers, 15 cargo transports, and a handful of personal craft. Against the Council's military, they looked like insects facing dragons. "Remember the plan," he said into the communications network. "We don't fight like them. We fight like humans." The Council fleet opened communication. Drex's face appeared on screen, confident and dismissive. "Attention, human colony. You have violated Council decree. Abandon your settlements immediately or face consequences." Kyung-soo looked back at him steadily. "This is our home. We're not leaving." Drex's expression darkened. "Then you choose death. Your species learns nothing. We offered you guidance. Instead, you choose rebellion." He cut the transmission and gave his fleet orders. "Destroy their vessels. Leave the planet intact. We'll bombard it after they watch their fleet die." The Council warships opened fire with precise, coordinated strikes. Their weapons were designed to tear through military-grade shields and armor. They expected quick, clean kills. What they got was chaos. The human vessels scattered in every direction, not in panic, but in patterns the Council couldn't predict. Mining ships released clouds of ore and rock dust, creating sensor-blocking debris fields. Construction haulers extended their manipulator arms, turning them into crude weapons that could grab and crush. Cargo ships accelerated in wild, evasive maneuvers that no military captain would dare try. And then the humans struck. Back a mining ship called the Mountain Breaker deliberately rammed a Council warship at full speed. Both ships exploded, but the warship had cost the Council decades of construction. The mining ship had cost Earth 6 months and some scrap metal. "What are they doing?" Fick shouted on Drex's command deck. "They're committing suicide." "They're trading," Drex realized with growing horror. "One of theirs for one of ours. They think it's a fair trade." But it wasn't just ramming. The construction haulers used their massive industrial lasers designed for cutting asteroids to slice through warship hulls. The cargo ships launched their cargo containers at high speed, turning shipping crates into kinetic missiles. Personal craft swarmed around larger council ships like angry insects, targeting sensors and communication arrays. The council fleet had better weapons, better shields, better everything. But they fought like they had always fought, carefully, precisely, following doctrine and tradition. They were afraid to take losses because each ship was valuable. The humans fought like they had nothing to lose because they didn't. Every colonist knew that surrender meant slavery or death, so they took risks that made no military sense. They sacrificed their ships to damage enemy vessels. They used the planet's orbital debris as cover and weapons. They targeted the council ship's weaknesses with improvised tactics. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the council fleet had lost 18 warships destroyed and 15 more damaged. Drex's flagship had a hole in its hull big enough to fly a shuttle through, carved by a mining laser. The human fleet was gone, every ship destroyed or disabled. But they had done something impossible. They had hurt the council. Badly. And Mirai had broadcast every moment of it across the galactic network. Drex stood on his damaged bridge, his forearms shaking with rage. "Deploy ground forces. We'll take the colony by—" "High Inquisitor," Fick interrupted. "We're receiving thousands of transmissions. From across the galaxy, they're sharing footage of the battle. On screens across the galaxy, beings from hundreds of species watched the impossible. They watched humans in mining ships ramming warships. They watched cargo haulers fighting battlecruisers. They watched colonists choosing death over surrender. And they watched the council fleet retreat. Because Drex, looking at his damaged ships and realizing the humans on the planet would fight just as hard, made a decision. We're withdrawing. We'll return with more ships? Withdrawing? Fick couldn't believe it. We still outnumber them. We outnumber corpses on a planet, Drex snapped. Those humans are willing to die. My warriors aren't. Retreat. Now. As the council fleet limped away, Kyung-Soo sat in his command center, surrounded by exhausted colonists. They had lost everything in orbit. 53 ships destroyed, 800 people dead, but the colony stood. Yunji brought him a message from Earth. It was from Ambassador Haiwan. Just 3 words. The galaxy watched. Kyung-Soo allowed himself a tired smile. The council had wanted to make an example of New Busan. They had succeeded, just not the example they wanted. They had shown the galaxy that humans would fight impossible odds, that they would sacrifice everything for their freedom. And in small colonies and subjugated worlds across the galaxy, other species were watching and thinking dangerous thoughts. If humans could resist the council, maybe they could too. The council had pushed humans to show what they were made of. Now they would face the consequences. Counselor Vex slammed his clawed hand on the council chamber table, his yellow eyes burning with fury. The emergency session had been going for 5 hours and the debate was getting louder. The humans must be crushed completely, Vex hissed. They have humiliated us at New Busan. They have violated our decree. They have inspired other subordinate species to question our authority. We cannot allow this to continue. Counselor Rill, a gentle-looking being with silver skin and large, thoughtful eyes, shook his head. We created this problem ourselves, Vex. We treated them as inferiors when we should have treated them as equals. Now we're reaping what we planted. Equals? Vex's laugh was like breaking glass. They are primitives. They have been in space for less than 2 centuries. We have civilizations older than their entire species. Age doesn't mean wisdom, Rill said quietly. The humans have shown remarkable adaptability. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. But Rill's voice was drowned out by others calling for action. The council had been embarrassed, and embarrassment turned to anger. They voted, Earth would face the full might of the Galactic Council. A fleet of 500 warships would be assembled. They would enter the solar system, crush any resistance, and impose martial law. Humanity would learn its place once and for all. On Earth, Admiral Sang-woo received the intelligence reports about the coming fleet and smiled coldly. He was a lean man with gray temples and eyes that had seen too many battles. He had been a naval commander during Earth's last major war, and he had never lost an engagement. 500 ships, he said to his staff. They're bringing everything. We have maybe 200 combat-ready vessels, his tactical officer said nervously. Even with our improvements, we're outnumbered more than 2 to 1. Numbers aren't everything, Sang-woo said. He pulled up a holographic display of the solar system. They'll come in here probably near Jupiter thinking they'll have room to maneuver. They'll expect us to defend Earth directly. So we won't, sir? The tactical officer looked confused. Sang-Woo pointed to the asteroid belt. This is our advantage. Millions of rocks ranging from pebbles to mountains. Natural cover. Natural weapons. We'll turn the entire asteroid belt into a battlefield that favors us. Deep in a secure research facility on Luna, Dr. Bora was putting finishing touches on her masterpiece. She was a small woman with wild hair and hands that trembled from too much caffeine and too little sleep. She had been working for 18 months on a single project. Ever since studying the Council's targeting systems, quantum entanglement targeting, she explained to Commander Dong-hyun during his inspection. The Council's ships use traditional sensors, light speed, radio waves, things that can be jammed or fooled. This system uses quantum-paired particles. What one particle detects, its partner knows instantly, no matter the distance. No light speed lag. No jamming possible. Dong-hyun studied the device. How accurate? In simulations, we can target a specific rivet on a ship's hull from 1,000,000 kilometers away, and our weapons can adjust in flight based on real-time data. Bora grinned tiredly. The Council ships use predictive targeting. By the time their weapons reach where we were, we'll be somewhere else. Our weapons will know where they are right now. How many ships can we equip? Dong-hyun asked. All of them, Bora said. If we have 3 days, you have 2, Dong-hyun said. Get it done. As Earth prepared, Merchant Captain Yan-Woo was doing his part in a different way. He had spent the past year building relationships with dozens of subordinate species across the galaxy. Now he was calling in favors. Look, Kix, he said to his Kiri friend over an encrypted channel. I'm not asking you to fight. I'm just asking you to delay them. Slow down their supply lines. Report the wrong coordinates. Technical malfunctions. Whatever you can do without getting caught. Kix's insect-like face twitched nervously. If the Council discovers our involvement, they won't, Yan-Woo assured him. Because you're just having a series of unfortunate coincidences. Happens to everyone, right? Across the galaxy, similar conversations happened. A cargo shipment to the Council fleet got lost in paperwork. A refueling station experienced technical difficulties. Intelligence about human defensive positions was mysteriously inaccurate. The Council's subordinate species weren't openly rebelling, but they weren't helping either. The new Busan battle had changed something in them. If humans could resist, maybe resistance was possible. The Council fleet assembled near a staging point 3 weeks from Earth. Vex had insisted on leading it personally. His flagship, the Eternal Authority, was the largest warship the Council had ever built. Around it gathered 500 vessels from 47 different species, the combined might of galactic civilization. Vex stood on his command deck, surrounded by holographic displays. Today we end this human problem forever. We will show the galaxy what happens when primitives challenge the Council. His fleet jumped to faster than light speed, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They arrived in the solar system near Jupiter, exactly where Admiral Sang-Woo had predicted. The Council fleet came out of FTL in perfect formation, weapons ready, shields up. They expected to see human ships clustered around Earth protecting their homeworld. Instead, they saw nothing. Where are they? Vex demanded. Scan the system. Find their fleet. The sensors swept outward. Earth was there, barely defended. Mars had some orbital platforms. But the human fleet wasn't anywhere. Contact. An officer shouted. Multiple ships emerging from the asteroid belt. Human vessels poured out from behind asteroids like a swarm of angry wasps. They weren't in formation. They didn't follow any traditional battle doctrine. They came from 100 different angles using the asteroids as cover and launching platforms. All ships open fire, Vex commanded. Destroy them. The Council fleet unleashed devastating firepower. Massive energy weapons that could vaporize mountains lit up space. Missile barrages filled the darkness. But the human ships weren't where the targeting systems predicted they'd be. Bora's quantum targeting system let them dodge with impossible precision, and then the humans fired back. Human weapons were simpler than Council technology, mostly railguns that fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds, and missiles with basic guidance systems. But they didn't aim where the Council ships were. They aimed where the ships would be, using quantum targeting that couldn't be fooled. Council ships started dying. Admiral Sang-Woo commanded from his flagship, the Indomitable Spirit. All vessels, pattern Delta 7, use the asteroids. Make them come to us. The human fleet scattered into the asteroid belt. The Council ships followed. confident they could corner the smaller force. That was their mistake. In the open space near Jupiter, the Council had all the advantages. In the asteroid belt, everything changed. Human ships knew every rock, every trajectory, every hiding spot. They had spent months preparing this battlefield. Council ships found themselves flying through a maze where ambushes waited behind every corner. A human destroyer would pop out from behind an asteroid, fire everything it had, then disappear before return fire arrived. Worse, the humans were using the asteroids themselves as weapons. Mining charges planted months ago suddenly detonated, sending massive rocks tumbling into Council flight paths. Cargo haulers used their powerful engines to literally push asteroids into enemy ships. "This is madness," one Council captain shouted. "They're not following any tactical doctrine." That was exactly the point. The Council had been fighting wars the same way for thousands of years. They had rules, traditions, proper tactics. Humans had been in space for 2 centuries and had spent most of that time figuring out creative ways to kill each other. They had no traditions, no rules, just whatever worked. Captain Tae-jin commanded a squadron of 20 fast attack craft. His mission was to target the Council's command vessels, not to destroy them, but to disrupt their communications. Human ships dove in close, right into the teeth of enemy defenses, and fired electromagnetic pulse weapons at communication arrays. Within an hour, the Council fleet was having trouble coordinating. Ships were fighting independently instead of as a unified force. Their biggest advantage, superior numbers and organization, was falling apart. On the Eternal Authority, Vex watched in growing horror as his fleet took losses. 50 ships destroyed, 100 damaged. The humans were fighting like demons, sacrificing their own vessels to take down larger targets, using tactics that made no sense but somehow worked. "Pull back," Counselor Rues' ship transmitted. "Vex, this isn't working."
"We need to retreat and regroup."
"Never!" Vex roared. "We are the Galactic Council. We do not retreat from primitives." But other species in his fleet disagreed. Rues' people, the Sylvari, had watched New Busan closely. They had discussed among themselves what it meant. When Rues gave the order to withdraw, his species' 30 ships broke formation and jumped to FTL. That caused a chain reaction. If the Sylvari were leaving, maybe they knew something. Other species began to question the battle. Why were they dying for the Council's pride? The humans weren't attacking anyone's homeworld. They were just defending their own territory. More ships started breaking away. 10 ships, 20, 50. The Council fleet was fragmenting. Admiral Sang-woo saw it happening and pressed the advantage. 3 months after the Battle of Seoul, the Galactic Council chambers looked different. Where once there had been confident aliens discussing how to manage their subordinate species, now there was nervous energy and worried conversations. The humans had been invited, no, summoned, but for the first time they were coming as equals. Ambassador Hae-won walked into the chamber with her head high. Beside her walked Admiral Sang-woo, still wearing his military uniform. Behind them came Captain Tae-jin, Dr. Bora, and Governor Kyung-soo, who had become a hero to humans everywhere. They weren't coming to beg. They were coming to negotiate. Counselor Vex sat in a special section reserved for those facing tribunal. His elaborate robes were gone, replaced by simple clothing. His yellow eyes tracked the humans with hatred but also fear. He had been the one who declared humans subordinate. He had led the fleet to crush them. Now he was a prisoner, returned to the Council in exchange for a promise of fair trial. Counselor Real opened the session. His silver skin seemed to glow with sad wisdom. "We gather today to address the gravest crisis the Council has faced in 1,000 years. Our fleet was defeated, our authority was challenged, and we must ask ourselves, how did we reach this point?" Other counselors began speaking, some angry, some defensive, but Real raised his hand for silence. "Before we talk, I believe we should hear from the humans themselves. Ambassador Hae-won, you have the floor." Hae-won stepped forward to the center of the chamber. She looked around at all the alien faces, some hostile, some curious, some sympathetic. When she spoke, her voice was clear and strong. 3 years ago, humanity reached out to the stars hoping to find friends. Instead, we found masters who told us we were inferior. We were told to accept subordination for our own good. We were told to pay tribute. We were told that our expansion would be limited, our rights restricted, our future controlled by others. She paused, letting her words sink in, and we said no. Not because we hate the Council, not because we want war, but because humans have a saying, We'd rather die on our feet than live on our knees, Vex hissed from his seat. You speak of pride, but you nearly destroyed yourselves with your recklessness. We sought to protect you from protect us. He cut him off, her eyes flashing. You sought to control us. There's a difference. Yes, humanity has a violent history. Yes, we've made terrible mistakes, but we've also learned from them. We've grown. We've changed, and we won't let anyone, no matter how old or powerful, tell us we're not allowed to determine our own future. She turned to address the entire chamber. The truth is the Galactic Council has grown stagnant. You have rules that haven't changed in millennia, technology that hasn't evolved, thinking that hasn't adapted. You've become comfortable in your power, and that comfort has made you blind. Several counselors shifted uncomfortably. She was right, and they knew it. Look at your own subordinate species, HFY continued. The Kiri, the Dalrim, the Ventari, dozens of others. You keep them down because you're afraid of what they might become if you let them rise. But fear isn't leadership. Fear is tyranny. Rill nodded slowly. What do you propose, Ambassador? HFY took a deep breath. This was the moment everything came down to. Reform. Complete reformation of the council system.
And the subordinate classifications.
Give every species a voice, a vote, and a chance to grow. Share technology instead of hoarding it. Work together instead of ruling over. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some counselors supported the idea. Others were outraged. The debate raged for hours. Finally, an ancient counselor from a species humanity had never met spoke. Its voice was like wind through crystals. The human makes valid points. But there is a practical question. Why should we listen? You defeated one fleet. We could send 10 more. We could isolate you completely. What leverage do you truly have? Admiral Sang-Woo stepped forward. With respect, Counselor, you're not thinking practically. You're thinking traditionally. Yes, you could send more fleets, and we'd destroy them too at great cost to both sides. But that's not your real problem. He activated a holographic display. Your real problem is that every subordinate species in the galaxy watched what happened at Sol. They saw that resistance is possible. Right now, across the galaxy, those species are asking themselves why they should keep accepting subordination. Some are already organizing. The Kiri have stopped delivering tribute. The Dalrim have closed their trade routes to council ships. You're not facing one rebellious species anymore. You're facing the possibility of 40 species rebelling at once. The chamber fell silent. This was the truth they had been avoiding. You can try to crush us all, Sang-Woo continued. But that would take decades and cost millions of lives. Or you can accept that the old system is dying and help build something better. It's your choice, Dr. Bora added quietly. And consider this. We shared our quantum targeting technology with 5 other species already. If you attack them, they'll have the same advantages we had. The technological superiority you've relied on for so long. That's over, Counselor Rill stood. I call for a formal vote. The proposal. Immediate reclassification of humans to full council species status with all rights and privileges. And within 1 year, complete reformation of the subordinate species system, giving voice and representation to all peoples. The debate that followed was intense. Some counselors argued humans hadn't earned it. Others pointed out that humans had proven themselves in battle, which was the old way of earning respect. Still others noted that change was necessary whether they liked it or not. When the vote came, it wasn't close. 180 species voted yes. 40 voted no. The rest abstained. Rill announced the result with a tired smile. The motion passes. Humans are hereby granted full council status. Welcome, Ambassador HFY, to full membership. The chamber erupted in a mix of applause and angry mutters. HFY felt tears in her eyes but held them back. They had done it. Humanity was free, but she wasn't done. There's one more thing, she said. Counselor Vex. All eyes turned to the disgraced counselor. Vex glared at her with pure hatred. What you did was wrong, HFY said. You tried to enslave my people. You led a fleet to destroy our colonies. You're responsible for thousands of deaths. But I'm not going to demand your execution or even your permanent imprisonment. Vex looked surprised. So did everyone else. Instead, I'm going to ask the council to assign you to a new position, HFY continued. You're going to work in the Department of Species Integration, helping newly recognized species adapt to council life. You're going to spend the rest of your career serving the very people you tried to dominate. You're going to learn what it means to be humble, Some counselors laughed. Others looked impressed by the cruel mercy of it. Vex looked like he wanted to die. "This is humiliation," Vex said quietly. "Yes." Haywan agreed. "It is, but it's also a chance to do better. Take it or don't, that's up to you," the tribunal agreed. Vex was sentenced to service, not punishment. He would live, but his pride wouldn't. Over the next year, the council transformed. Subordinate species were given representation. Rigid hierarchies were replaced with merit-based systems. Technology sharing programs began. Dozens of species that had been kept down for centuries suddenly had opportunities to grow. And humans were at the center of it all. Not as conquerors, but as catalysts for change. Captain Taejin was promoted to admiral and became the first human to command a combined council fleet. Governor Kyungsoo returned to New Busan, where his colony grew to 500,000 people. Dr. Bora continued her research, now with access to technology from across the galaxy. Commander Dong-hyun retired, satisfied that humanity was safe. Merchant Captain Yan Wu expanded his trading network, now operating legally and making a fortune connecting species that had never worked together before. And Ambassador Haiwan, 10 years after that first humiliating visit to the council, she was elected chairwoman of the entire Galactic Council, the first human to hold the position. She stood before the council on her first day, looking at the assembled representatives. There were more species now. The old subordinate classifications were gone. "Everyone had a voice. We've come a long way," she said. 10 years ago, the council declared humanity subordinate. They thought we were too young, too violent, too primitive to have a say in galactic affairs. They were wrong. Not because humans are perfect, we're not. Not because we're the strongest, we aren't. But because we refuse to accept that our future would be decided by others. She smiled, looking directly at the camera broadcasting to the entire galaxy. That's the lesson I hope every species remembers. Never underestimate people who have everything to lose and nothing to fear. Never underestimate those who fight for their freedom. And never ever underestimate humans who've been told they can't do something. The camera panned to show the flags of all council species flying together. The Earth flag, blue and green with white clouds, hung among them. But thanks to a small navigation error by the maintenance crew that was never corrected, it hung just slightly higher than the others. Some said it was an accident. Others said it was a human making a quiet statement. Either way, no one dared to change it. In a small office in the Department of Species Integration, former Counselor Vex processed paperwork for a newly recognized species applying for trade rights.